Quit now.
God is a mean kid with a magnifying glass. I'm a victim. I'm not okay with a mediocre life.
You've been doing a lot of complaining about me.
Who are you?
I'm God. In a way, I brought you here to offer you a job. My job. Having fun?
If you were endowed with the power of God, how would you use it?
My new co-anchor may need a glass of water.
Jim Carrey in Bruce Almighty, Saturday on Pearl's Weekend Blockbuster.
It was 20 years ago. Ever since, time has never been so magical.
The time now is 11:40. The Time Check was brought to you by Chopin.
Report on Lama Ferry disaster faults Marine Department employees. Vice President says Occupy Central is against the law. And Barack Obama pledges to defend Japan over the Diaoyu Islands. Good evening. An investigation into the 2012 ferry collision that killed 39 people off Lama Island has concluded that 17 serving and retired Marine Department employees did not discharge their duties appropriately in relation to the accident. The report recommends that disciplinary action be taken against the 13 who are still serving.
The report on the investigation that began last June recommends formal disciplinary proceedings be initiated against 7 of the employees, while the remaining 6 should receive warnings.
Formal disciplinary action will be taken for relatively serious misconduct, with the punishment ranging from reprimand to dismissal.
The report does not disclose the identities of the civil servants, among whom are 2 directorate-level officers. That's because after seeking advice from the Department of Justice, the panel concluded it could influence future disciplinary proceedings and an ongoing judicial investigation.
On the criminal investigation front, the team has made referrals to the police.
But this report has also revealed other deep-rooted problems in the way the Marine Department goes about its duties.
In the course of investigation, the investigation team had also come across matters of non-compliance in respect of other classes 1 and 2 vessels, including the non-compliance with life-saving appliances.
Joao urged the investigation team to look into the matter and submit yet another report as soon as possible.
Vice President Lee Yuan-chao told a group of Hong Kong media executives he hopes the SAR will take national interests into consideration when reporting the news. Lee also discussed political reform with the delegation, and he insisted Occupy Central is against the law. Tianto reports.
The Vice President met with a group of Hong Kong media executives at the Great Hall of People in Beijing. Representing the SAR's main newspapers as well as television and radio stations, the group was told that society's interests should be considered in news reporting. Li Yuanchao said he hopes Hong Kong media can use an objective, fair, balanced and reasonable voice with the overall interests of the country and the SAR in mind to guide Hong Kong society. In addition, he hopes the media would grasp the new opportunities stemming from the nation's reforms and development to protect the one country, two systems principle and maintain the SAR's stability and prosperity. Lee also spoke about political reform, reiterating the importance of the conditions set by Beijing for achieving democracy and universal suffrage in Hong Kong. On the proposed Occupy Central movement, Lee is firm on his belief that it is simply illegal. He said it would obstruct the city's democratic progress and destroy its stability and prosperity. But he expressed faith in the SAR government's ability to handle the situation according to the law. The delegation's leader, Li Qiujia, said after the meeting, the vice president also talked about cross-border relations. He said Li referred to his old farming days, describing how a delicate balance is needed in watering the fields, otherwise plants would either dry up or drown. Similarly, there's the need to balance Hong Kong's need for tourism and its capacity to receive visitors. He said in the meantime, Li hopes people on both sides of the border will be willing to resolve the differences step by step. Diane To, TVB News.
Chief Executive Leung Chun-ying stressed today his government is committed to protecting press freedom and freedom of speech in Hong Kong. Rani Santani reports.
Recent attacks on journalists as well as allegations of censorship have sparked concerns about press freedom and freedom of speech here in Hong Kong. Speaking at the World Association of Newspapers and News Publishers conference today, Chief Executive Leung Chun-ying said safeguarding press freedom is a top priority for his administration.
We protect media freedom, not just because it is the right thing to do, not just because it is a core value for Hong Kong people, not just because it is our constitutional duty. We protect media freedom because it is a cornerstone for Hong Kong's reputation as an international city.
Leung quoted Article 27 of the Basic Law, which stipulates that Hong Kong residents shall have freedom of speech, of the press, and of publication. The CE also commented on the recent attack on former Ming Pao chief editor Kevin Lau.
And as far as the Kevin Lau case is concerned, the assailants and others involved in the attack were quickly apprehended in the mainland of China and were turned over to the Hong Kong police, to the Hong Kong government, to face justice in Hong Kong.
The CE's remarks come one day after the Hong Kong Journalists Association released the territory's first Press Freedom Index. The association found self-censorship to be common among local reporters and that the public has a negative impression of media freedom in the city. Rani Samtani, TVB News.
The 2003 milkshake murder case is finally closed. The Court of Final Appeal today rejected the last bid for an appeal by Nancy Kissel over the killing of her husband. Kissel was found guilty in 2005 and again in a retrial in 2011 of drugging her wealthy banker husband with a strawberry milkshake before clubbing him to death and rolling his body up in a carpet. She maintained that it was an act of self-defense against an abusive husband. Kissel will continue serving her life sentence at the Tai Lam Center for Women. Overseas now, US President Barack Obama affirmed in Tokyo today that the United States would defend Japan in confrontation with China over disputed islands in the East China Sea. Alan Bookney reports.
A royal welcome greeted President Obama on the second day of his visit to Japan. Emperor Akihito and Empress Michiko greeted him, then ushered him onto the red carpet for an official welcome ceremony at the grounds of the Imperial Palace. Following that, Obama headed for talks with Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe. Obama said he welcomed Tokyo's efforts to review its exercise of collective self-defense, adding that he's not optimistic North Korea will stop behaving irresponsibly.
We are looking at a whole range of issues that are challenging at this time, including the threats posed by North Korea and the nuclearization that's been taking place in that country.
Obama also made reference to the group of islands in the East China Sea, known as the Diaoyus by China and the Senkakus by Japan. Obama said historically the islands have been administered by Tokyo, and the U.S. is committed to Japan's security.
And let me reiterate that our treaty commitment to Japan's security is absolute, and Article 5 covers all territories under Japan's administration, including the Senkaku Islands.
Obama said the U.S. has no position on which country has actual dominion over the islands, and he urged a peaceful resolution.
This is a message that I've delivered directly to the Chinese, and it's one that I think is entirely consistent with China being successful.
Japan is the first leg of Obama's four-country, 8-day swing through the Asia-Pacific region. His aim is to convince Asian partners Washington is serious about expanding American interests in the region while not damaging U.S. ties with China. Responding to Obama's remarks, the Foreign Ministry in Beijing made clear the Diaoyu Islands belong to China. Spokesman Qin Gang also said the U.S.-Japan Security Treaty should not be aimed at a third party or harm China's sovereignty. Alan Brooknia, TVB News.
Prosecutors raided the offices of South Korea's shipping safety watchdogs as they hunt for clues in the deadly sinking of a ferry more than a week ago. At least 171 bodies have now been recovered. James Aiken reports.
For the first time since the Sewol sank off South Korea's southern coast, relatives of missing passengers have been taken to the site of the disaster. The grim search for bodies is now focused on the fourth deck of the vessel. As divers make their way deeper into the wreck, the task becomes more treacherous. Searchers have to rip through cabin walls to retrieve more victims. A task force spokesman says the work is grueling. While family members of passengers continue to hold a vigil at a nearby port, investigators continue their hunt for answers. Prosecutors have raided the offices of the country's shipping safety watchdogs, as well as the home of the head of a family that owns the ferry company. The owners have not been indicted, but they have been banned from leaving the country. Aside from wind and ocean currents and a sudden course change, investigators are also considering factors like a poorly secured freight load, illegal ship modifications, and faulty steering gear. 22 of the 29 crew members survived the sinking. 11 of them, including the captain, are either under arrest or detained. On the way back to detention from a court appearance today, the ship's first engineer told reporters that he and his colleagues were ordered to abandon ship. He didn't reveal who gave them the order. Prosecutors say it appears none of the crew made any effort to rescue passengers. Most of the victims attended the same high school near Seoul, and today students who lost classmates went back to school for the first time since the tragedy. At a temporary memorial nearby, emotions of residents are raw. I am very sad, says this local businessman, but at the same time I feel resentful and angry. James Aiken, TVB News.
Pro-Russian separatists in the eastern Ukrainian city of Slavyansk retook a checkpoint today, just hours after government forces seized it. Ukrainian forces said they had killed several pro-Russian militants in clashes as they closed in on the separatist-held city, seizing rebel checkpoints and setting up roadblocks. But 2 hours later, the troops pulled back from a checkpoint and local militia moved in. It was unclear why the Ukrainian military had withdrawn. Russia, meanwhile, announced new military exercises near the Ukrainian border in response to the increased clashes. Back locally, customs officers have arrested 4 people in connection with selling suspected counterfeit oranges.
These days, most consumers like to make sure the products they buy are genuine instead of low-quality counterfeits. But when it comes to fruit and vegetables, most of us assume that such products are impossible to fake. Unfortunately, that is not the case. 2 fruit stores in Yuen Long were caught selling suspected counterfeit oranges, claiming the fruit they sold was of a certain brand, when in fact it wasn't. 5,200 of them were seized by customs officers, along with 112,000 forged labels with a total value of $90,000. A shop owner and 3 salespeople were arrested in an ongoing operation by the Customs and Excise Department.
The methods adopted by these unscrupulous traders that they are using some cheaper orange, and they are going to affix counterfeit labels on it, falsely claiming that they are the original products.
These oranges imported from Africa have a market price of about $1 each, but with these fake labels from a famous American brand, retailers are able to sell them for up to $4 each.
But although these counterfeit oranges may hurt your pocket, they won't harm your health.
We have brought this counterfeit orange for examinations by our government chemists. And the results show that even though you are going to consume it by human, it has no harmful effect.
customs officers advise consumers when buying fruit to take a close look